Hi dear devs, as I hope you know, Russia invade into my country, Ukraine, Crimea, Donbass, and it is not cool to play Zarya, and I even cannot take Ukrainian hero. Is it okay for you? For me, it is very sad and obnoxiously. Please add Ukrainian cha.
Over 100 Russian servicemen. It's the biggest foreign incursion into Russia since the Second World War, and today saw the extraordinary sight of a Ukrainian war correspondent reporting from inside Russia. Ukraine's incursion began just over a week ago and took Moscow by complete surprise. Despite claims of territorial gains, Ukraine insists it's not interested in taking over Russian territory. Russia claims it's stopped any further advances. In a moment, we'll hear from our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, about how dangerous a moment this is for President Putin. But first, our Ukraine correspondent, James Waterhouse, joins us from the Sumy region on the border with Russia. James.
Rita, there is something strange going on in Ukraine. We're seeing President Zelensky go from describing difficult circumstances on the front line to having very choreographed public briefings. He's almost dictating proceedings, his terms for peace down the line, something Russia has done until this point really for the large part of its full-scale invasion. His logic is that this cross-border attack will bring peace closer, but strangely it feels further away because of the intense fighting that has broken out. Nevertheless, this operation is continuing to gain Western support, most recently from European allies.
No border checkpoint this crossing to Russia, just a burnt-out Russian tank.
Oh.
A different assignment for Ukrainian war reporter Natalia Nahorna. This is a historic moment, she tells the camera in the city of Bucha. Such a claim might be premature, but Ukraine is talking up this land grab while it can. It's providing humanitarian aid and organising evacuations.
Приветствуем всех военнослужащих российских воздушно-десантных войск и сегодня от имени командования ВДВ, от имени Министерства обороны и от себя лично, совместно с ансамблем песни и пляски ВДВ, хотим подарить вам новую песню, которую я написал специально ко Дню воздушно-десантных войск. Поздравляем вас с праздником, удачи вам и побед. Пойте вместе с нами. Слава ВДВ!
Горячий август, день второй, святой и самый дорогой для пацанов, кто с островов, хоть остров твой. И паренек, простой курсант, и генерал, и лейтенант, и гордый день, что поправит Аксельбан. Все это мы, небесные родины десант. Мы грусть оставим на
Russian soldiers have breached this city, but no one here knows what lies ahead. Tens of thousands of Russians have fled the fighting to the border area. Some taking refuge in Paris. Yeva left home with such a rush, she had no time to I've nothing but the clothes on my back, she says, looking for something warm. The Kremlin insists it will achieve its aims in this war. Russians are wondering. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.
Well, this isn't the first incursion into Russia's territory by Ukraine since the war started in 2022, but it is the deepest and most sustained so far. BBC verified overwatch.
Here at BBC Verified, we have been analysing satellite imagery and the latest footage as Ukraine continues to further into Russian territory. Here's the latest assessment from the Institute for the Study of War, a US-based think tank. You can see here on this map just how far Ukrainian troops have reportedly advanced into Russia over the past week. The furthest Russian troops within the Kursk region is here, more than 28 kilometers, that's 17 miles from the border. Using satellite imagery, we have also been able to identify 5 locations where Russia is to be rapidly digging a network of train structures. And we know these are needed because the structures only began to appear in the days after Ukraine crossed last Tuesday. For instance, take a look at this satellite image from the day when the incursion started, compared with this one that was taken on the 14th of August. And you can clearly see here these structures were only built over the past week. We have also geolocated this video that shows the construction of one of these tankers. And you can see here the heavy machinery next to a long stretch of power near roads not far from the Kursk nuclear power. Military experts
не прощаемся ни с кем, чужие слезы нам зачем? Уходим в ночь, уходим в дождь, уходим в снег. Мы не прощаемся ни с кем, чужие слезы нам зачем? Уходим в ночь, уходим в дождь, уходим в снег. Батальонная разведка, мы без дел скучаем редко. Что ни день, то снова поиск, снова бой. Ты, сестричка, в медсанбате, не тревожься, погорать. Мы до свадьбы доживем еще с тобой. А ты, сестричка, в медсанбате, не тревожься, погорать. Мы до свадьбы доживем еще с тобой. А если так случится, друг, тебя навек покинет друг. Не осуждаю, война тому виной. Тебе наш ротный старшина отдаст медали ордена, а по разведке заработанные мной. Тебе наш ротный старшина отдаст медали ордена, а по разведке заработанные мной. Батальонная разведка, мы без дел скучаем редко. Что ни день, то снова поиск, снова бой. Ты, сестричка, в медсанбате, не тревожься, погорать. Мы до свадьбы доживем еще с тобой. Ты, сестричка, в медсанбате, не тревожься, погорать. Мы до свадьбы доживем еще с тобой.
In an unexpected, shocking turn of events, on Tuesday, August 6th, at least 2 Ukrainian army brigades assaulted over the border onto Russian soil for the first time in history. They started fighting in 11 separate Russian villages. Early reports from the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed it was at least 1,000 soldiers, but since then that estimate is likely many times that. More than 11 main battle tanks and 20 armored combat vehicles, including American-produced Strikers. The Ukrainians pushed up the R-20 highway, and they've advanced at least 20 kilometers, although unconfirmed reports claim as far as 40 kilometers as of Sunday, August 11th. Moscow Times tweeted 76,000 Russians have been evacuated from the border region in Kursk. Some of Ukrainians' most ardent supporters were initially skeptical of this decision to conduct this risky attack, claiming it's a mistake to expend manpower and resources while losing ground elsewhere along the front line. However, supporters of the move claim it's turning the tables back onto Russia. It's already being called the first invasion of Russian territory since World War II. In this video, I want to examine why Ukraine is taking this risk on a strategic level, how they were able to pull this surprise attack off on a tactical level, and what Russia's response might be. A quick disclaimer, I don't think you can focus on one aspect of the war where Ukraine is doing well, or only focus on one aspect of the war where Russia's doing well. That would seem disingenuous for me to only focus on one part of the war. My goal is to give you an objective overview of the entire war in this video, so you can have a more complete picture. This means we'll also cover Russia's advance in the Donbass on the key town of Provosky. Two things can be true at the same time, right? Ukraine can be losing ground in the Donbass, which is a rough situation for them there, and this incursion into Russia can be bad news for
Oh, that's so dumb.
There's good reason to believe, though, that these two things are closely tied together.
But the whole team teamed up to kill me.
Development is because, yes, in the past we've seen these limited temporary raids into Russian territory several times in the past year, but these were always labeled as pro-Ukrainian Russian units that did these kind of cross-border incursions. The Ukrainian government has always denied being responsible for these actions in the past that were supposedly the actions of Russian soldiers who were fighting for Ukraine. These operations in the past were under a kind of plausible deniability because of this. Basically, there were ethnically Russian proxies or resistance groups. I'm talking about the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion. But this is the first time multiple Ukrainian flag brigades have crossed over the border. It's unlike anything we've seen so far. According to pro-Russian military bloggers, Two Majors is his name, the Ukrainian incursion has troops in 11 different settlements with names I won't even struggle to pronounce. They're attacking along 3 directions, splitting up as they drive deeper into Russian territory, mainly up the R20 highway, but also at 3 other points off of the main road. I want to direct your attention for a second to this town, Sudza, a small village of about 5,000 people. The best information I could find shows Ukraine is in control of at least 50% of the town as of the morning of Sunday, August 11th, and they've surrounded it since then. Small arms battles, artillery, and airstrikes rage all across the border region since August 6th on Tuesday. Sudza actually holds strategic value for Moscow. This is because it's where the monitoring meter is located for the flow of gas from Russia to Europe. 14 billion cubic meters of Russian gas transits through this line. Russia earned about $8 billion from their gas sent to Europe in 2023, as far as I can tell. This might be counterintuitive for you to hear, but Ukraine actually has some incentive to not shut down Russia's gas. This is because it would negatively impact their allies in Europe if they did. For example, Slovakia, Hungary, they're heavily reliant on Russian gas still. 98% of Austria's gas still comes from Russia. In general, Europe has greatly reduced their reliance on Russian gas, but there are still some allies that require it. The Sudza facility is the only point of entry for Russian gas into the European Union, and it's located right on the border with Ukraine here. But the thing is, it's always been located close to Ukraine's border, and the pipeline actually runs straight through Ukrainian territory to reach Europe. So, as you can see with this map here, so if they wanted to cut Russian gas supply, they could have done that a long time ago already. They didn't need to capture this hub. I don't want to completely discount this possibility, though. There could certainly be some strategic aspect to controlling
That you're kidding.
that
Where's my healing?
I translated what this Ukrainian soldier said in this video, where you can see them at the metering station in Sudza. He says the news is the city of Sudza is under the control of Ukrainian armed forces. The strategic objective of Gazprom is under our control, end quote. That's what he says there. And this does suggest to me that the Gazprom station is one of the targets. But we'll see later on that there's some other critical infrastructure pieces in this direction that could be just as valuable. Now, I'm not allowed to show you images of POWs or captured Russian troops on YouTube, but if you go to my Instagram @CappyArmy, the link's in the description, I've posted some video proof there for you showing the Ukrainians have captured over 100 Russian troops in Kursk. That's what has been visually confirmed so far, although Ukrainian sources claim to have captured 300 Russian troops. but the visual evidence that I can show you is of this burnt out Russian tank that wasn't able to get off their transportation truck flatbed in time before it was destroyed. This raises some serious questions about Russia's defensive fortifications and intelligence operations in this region. Reportedly, it was the border guards, poorly trained conscripts, and also FSB, Russian agents guarding and advising here. It's like a Russian version of the CIA. At least 2 defensive lines were breached by Ukrainian troops who were backed up by artillery and FPV drones. For context, Russia's defensive line here has been built for the last 2.5 years. It has cost them over $178 million, and Ukrainian troops appear to just blow through it within a few days. This could be in part because Moscow's forces have recently been focused on the Donbass and Luhansk regions, and that focus has gained them territory there over the past few months, but possibly at the expense of protecting more quiet sectors like Kursk and Sumy, where relatively little has happened. Over the past few years, there's been Russian Spetsnaz incursions that I've noticed, some small reports here and there of Ukrainian cross-border special forces raids as well, but that's really about it. We now know the Ukrainian military combined the ground assault and a cyber attack on internet resources in Russia's Kursk region, shutting their communications down. A massive DDoS attack by Ukraine shut down their services, likely made communications and calling for reinforcements difficult for Russian units, because as we know from other reports, that basically they stated that Russian troops on the ground are making a lot of use of their personal cell devices. So cutting off personal communications to cellular devices could have interrupted military channels. One of the most interesting things that stuck out to me, though, about the attack came from a pro-Kremlin military blogger who claimed that he saw the Ukrainian units bringing in bulldozers and engineering equipment and building fortifications. This suggests to us the Ukraine isn't attempting just to create a diversion. They're trying to build fortifications and consolidate their gains here. This suggests it's not just simply some diversion attack, as many have suggested. Whether this works or not, only time will tell. Early reports suggest that they're able to drive deep into Russian territory by going around the more heavily guarded checkpoints instead of stopping to fight them. Ukrainian soldiers released this video showing some of the tactics they used to gain ground here. First, main battle tanks are plowing through, clearing a path, and they've got anti-drone cages on them. They're going through a field, so they're staying off of the main roads in order to keep that element of surprise. Up next, we've got engineering vehicles coming in. We're going to talk more about this in detail. That tells us, gives us some indication of what they're really doing there. Here we see upcoming these infantry fighting vehicles bringing the ground soldiers once the path has been cleared. And finally, mortarmen are dropping that mobile indirect fire system. Russian telegram channels have given more hints as to Ukraine's objective here. They said, quote, "Our aircraft and UAVs worked all night. Enemy concentrations were destroyed. The enemy is deploying logistics in controlled territories, bringing in fuel and lubricants and ammunition." If it's accurate, if that's really true, they're attempting to create supply lines, that would suggest to me that Ukraine's intentions are to stay. Whether that will work out or not will play out over the next few days and weeks. But to give you some quick context, this fighting is happening about 500 kilometers, 320 miles away from Moscow. It's the location of one of history's largest tank battles, and some meme lords on Twitter have already been quick to point that out. Retired Army Major General, senior fellow for the military studies at Lowly Institute, he put it this way, saying, quote, "The Ukrainians have attacked with a highly mobile, mechanized force. This is different to the Russian dismounted attacks in Kharkiv in recent months. A high level of mobility is essential to creating or exploiting gaps in enemy defenses and rapidly exploiting such gaps. Speed and shock action are vital." This is the theme of this attack that I think you should walk away from. If you know anything about this attack, it was surprise and speed that Ukraine used and leveraged. The Russian intelligence and border guards were caught completely by surprise. So I'll get to how they achieved that element of surprise, or how they might have achieved it in a minute. The live map shows us a Ukrainian soldier at their grocery store here in Sudza, and he's carrying a Western AR-style weapon, a red dot optic for close quarters combat, and he's got night vision mounts on there, which has been a major advantage of them in this direction. We'll see a lot of this unit is using Western small arms and vehicles, indicating that these are some of the more elite Ukrainian units leading the attack. If this mission seems like a risky suicide one-way mission to you, there could explain why that some of the initial reports say that the offensive used some convict units. More than 3,000 prisoners were released in Ukraine and put into military service starting in early July, similar to tactics used in Russia. These units are often used as assault squads, storm units, and we've seen that they've been treated a little bit more expendable. We now have an idea of where they're fighting in Ukraine, or in Russia, so to speak. Are we calling this a counteroffensive or a counter-invasion?
It's a counter-invasion.
So how many soldiers did it take to pull this attack off? The answer will have major repercussions.
It was 5.
Exact troop strength estimates are
It was 5.
Ukraine has been very mum.
It was literally 5, dude.
But David D, a former intelligence guy on X, said it was now 8 brigades in the battle.
No, he didn't. Duh, I think that Zarya's just gone. I haven't seen her all game. Oh, there she is. Zarya. Right, hello.
That were involved in the cross-border attack. Much of this information is based off of what Russian military bloggers who posted details of the different brigades involved and deployed here. The likelihood of incursions being repelled back is tough to judge, because unlike American brigades, which are always about 4,000 strong, Ukrainian ones can vary as small as 1,000 to as big as 5,000. What we do know is that these forces have been held back in reserve, waiting for this attack for some period of time, when they could have been reinforcing the front lines, so there's been an opportunity cost to this attack. We'll have to wait to see if it's worth it or not. A pro-Russian source, Rybar, had this quote that helps explain what happened. Despite the attempt of the Russian joint group of troops to stop the advance of Ukrainian mobile groups, the scale of the crisis is expanding. This is their words. Unfortunately, the tactics of the Ukrainian formations, with an emphasis on high speed, dashes, bypassing fortified areas, and maximum expansion of the breakthrough zone, without securing at the first stage, in its simplicity, surpasses the capability of the Russian army to counterattack. They claim Ukraine has reached the town of Soldatske. To give you an idea of why Ukraine really wanted to divert troops of Russia's troops away from nearby Kyiv, I don't know if people know this right now, but Russia is close to being within artillery range of Kharkiv. If they're able to advance another 10 kilometers and capture Lipsy, then they'd be within 2 artillery range of Ukraine's second largest city. This would be devastating for them, and it could help explain why they're taking this risk. The Kursk region in Russia is 30,000 square kilometers. For context, it has a population of 1 million people. It would probably take an entire 400,000 soldiers to capture. So what is Ukraine really doing? What's their objective? There are 3 possible goals that have been floated outside the gas station hub that we'll get into. One is to force Russia to divert troops away from other parts of the front line. 2 is morale. And 3 is possibly to trade land in future negotiations. History has a lot of examples of this strategy being used. At the end of the Korean War in 1953, during the armistice negotiations, both sides used their control of specific territories as bargaining chips. Israel in 1967, the Six-Day War, they used their control over certain territories as leverage in peace negotiations. Control of land is often used in negotiations, but this would require that Ukraine actually hold on to the territory. Interesting to see if that happens. The attack is so brazen and unexpected, it's important to note the diplomatic response from around the world. Do countries support it or not? European Union spokesperson Kirstano, he said, quote, Ukraine has a legal right to defend itself, including by striking at the aggressor on its territory. The United States response has been a little bit different. They're saying that they're going to reach out to the Ukrainian military to learn exactly what their objectives are here. In fact, some of them declined to comment on the attack. An important question that we're not going to have confirmation on is whether or not America knew about this attack beforehand. After a costly leak of intelligence documents in 2023 by America, Ukraine has kept their information a little bit more close to their chest since then. President Russia said the attack was, quote, a large-scale provocation, end quote. Now let's check in and see what John Mearsheimer had to say about it. What people fail to understand is that Kursk is in Ukraine's national sphere of influence. Some are calling it an incursion, others are calling it an invasion. Either way, I can count on people in the comment section to say that it's terrible. But the reason I believe Ukraine has traveled at least 30 kilometers to Russia is partly because Russia released footage themselves of an Iskir cluster bomb attack on Ukrainian troops, and that strike was geolocated to this GPS coordinate 30 kilometers from the border. And Russian mill bloggers have reported firefights occurring near.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday, and right now you can.
Based. 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 Boost. Oh no, that don't attack Ukraine. Stop attacking. Attacking.
Look at me! Look at me! Good time! Charge me!
Oh.
This is the song when looking for the wizard.
Wizard.
We should start the winning now.
Oh.
I was told
Me
we
when
would be fighting
Overwatch
men.
competitive.
Money will not wait forever.
Based.
Russian Tooth Fairy has come for all your.
Oh, 'cause Russia, bad. Russia for.